Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us.
I'm excited for this one.
Me too. Today we're going to be looking at what it means to parent as Christians.
A big topic.
Huge. And to help us kind of unpack some of these ideas, we're going to be looking at an article called "What is Christian Parenting?"
Oh, yeah, I saw that one. It was published online pretty recently, right?
Yeah, just last month actually.
Yeah.
And it's on that website that's all about equipping Christian parents and carers.
That's right. The one with all those great resources.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to check that out later, after you listen to this, you can.
Yeah, for sure.
So what I thought was really interesting about this article is that the author Harriet Connor,
Yeah.
she didn't actually grow up in a Christian home herself.
Oh.
So she's kind of figuring this out as she goes.
Just like many of our listeners, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she starts the article by describing this scene that I bet a lot of parents can relate to. She's at a mother and baby group with her first son, and she's just surrounded by all these other new parents.
Yeah.
And she kind of has this realization that, regardless of their background or their beliefs, everyone there has the same basic hopes and fears for their little ones.
Oh, that's so true. When you think about it,
Yeah.
every parent wants the best for their child.
Right. And I think that's what's so powerful about that image that she paints.
Yeah.
It kind of strips everything back down to the core of what it means to be a parent.
Yeah. And I think it highlights this fundamental truth that children are gifts. We may not always think about it in those terms, but the very act of, bringing a child into the world and caring for them speaks to that inherent value that we place on them.
Yeah. And the article goes on to explore this idea of children as gifts specifically from a Christian perspective.
Okay.
And it challenges that whole notion of the designer baby.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's this pressure to mold our kids into this perfect image of what we think they should be.
Yeah, to live out our dreams or something, or achieve things that we maybe didn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And instead, Connor kind of invites us to think about this concept of the eternal soul, which, for those who maybe aren't familiar with that term, it's this idea that each child carries within them this spark of the divine, this unique, irreplaceable essence that transcends just the physical.
It's that part of us that connects to something bigger, something eternal.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
It does.
Like, our children aren't just projects to manage or accomplishments to achieve.
Exactly.
But these incredible beings that have been entrusted to us by God.
With their own paths to walk.
Right, each with their own purpose to discover.
And that's where that idea of paying attention comes in.
Yeah.
It's not just about providing for their physical needs. It's about truly seeing them.
Right.
Recognizing their individuality, their strengths, their struggles, and the unique ways that God is working in their lives.
And I thought it was really great how Connor even touched upon this idea of, some parents are raising children with special needs.
Yeah.
And she doesn't shy away from the added challenges that brings.
Right.
But she really emphasizes that these children, too, are precious gifts, deserving of the same love and respect and attention as any other child.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that parenthood in all its forms is a sacred calling. It's a responsibility and a privilege that invites us to reflect God's love in tangible ways.
And that brings us to this next big idea that Connor explores in the article, which is this really fascinating metaphor of fatherhood to describe God's relationship with us. And it's not just this fluffy, sentimental kind of love, but a love that's active and intentional and encompassing.
Right. It includes so many different aspects.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about all the things that a good father does.
Well, yeah, she specifically points to some of those aspects of fatherhood that reflect God's love for us.
Okay, like what, for example?
Well, first, there's that unconditional love, that unwavering acceptance and affection.
That's always there,
Yeah.
no matter what.
No matter what. And then there's that sense of commitment.
Oh, yeah.
That steadfast promise to be present, to provide, to protect, even when it's hard.
Yeah. Even when it's really hard,
Yeah.
which, let's face it, parenthood is hard
Right.
a lot of the time.
It is.
But that's what real love is about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about sticking it out, even when...
Even when you don't feel like it.
Right.
Even when it's tough.
And she also talks about discipline,
Oh,
which,
yeah.
Might seem kind of counterintuitive when we're talking about love.
Right. You wouldn't think those two things go together.
Yeah, but in the context of fatherhood, it's about guiding our children
Right.
toward what's best for them, even when it means setting boundaries or correcting their behavior.
Exactly. It's about helping them grow and mature into the best versions of themselves.
And it's interesting how Connor connects this idea of, divine fatherhood to the very crucial role that earthly fathers play in the lives of their children.
Oh, yeah.
And, she acknowledges that not every child is going to have a father present in their life.
Right.
But she really emphasizes the importance of that paternal presence whenever possible.
Yeah, and for those families where a father isn't present, she highlights the role that the church community can play.
Oh, yeah.
In stepping in and providing that support.
Right, because we need that.
Yeah.
That sense of guidance and support.
Especially from other men.
Right.
Who can model what healthy masculinity looks like.
It's like she's saying that healthy fatherhood, whether it's biological or spiritual, creates this foundation of security and belonging that allows children to thrive.
Yeah, that's such a good way to put it. It's that sense of being rooted, being grounded, knowing that you're loved and cared for no matter what.
And she even gets into some of the specifics of how that plays out in those early years.
Oh, yeah.
She talks about how consistently meeting a child's needs in infancy and toddlerhood helps build that strong bond of attachment.
It's those little things.
Right.
Those everyday interactions.
Yeah, it's not about the grand gestures.
Exactly.
But just those everyday acts of care and responsiveness.
That create that sense of safety and trust.
Yeah.
And that secure attachment sets the stage for all the learning and growing that will happen in the years to come.
Which actually leads us perfectly into the next section of the article.
Okay.
Which is Connor's idea of parenting as an apprenticeship in life. And I love this concept.
I do too.
Because it moves beyond that traditional view of education as something that just happens in a classroom.
Right.
Yeah. She's talking about this ongoing process of guiding our children, of equipping them with the tools and skills that they need to navigate all the complexities of the world.
And not just, academic knowledge, but also those practical life skills.
Exactly. Yeah, she talks about things like cooking and managing money. But she also talks about character development.
Oh, yeah.
About instilling those core values that will shape their choices and their relationships.
Throughout their lives.
Yeah. And she specifically mentions values like respect, compassion, generosity, self-control, and honesty.
Those are the building blocks.
They are.
Of a good life.
Yeah, and I think we can all agree that those qualities are essential.
Absolutely.
Regardless of one's faith.
Yeah.
And she also emphasizes this idea of integrating a Christian worldview into their education, whether that's through homeschooling or choosing a private Christian school, or even finding ways to bring faith into the conversation within a public school setting.
It's about making those connections.
It is. It's about helping them to see the world through the lens of their faith, to understand how their beliefs connect to every aspect of their lives.
And, it's encouraging to see that she doesn't shy away from some of those more challenging topics.
Oh, yeah.
That parents are grappling with these days.
Right.
Like sexuality and gender identity.
Yeah, and she acknowledges that these are areas where a distinctly Christian perspective comes into play and encourages parents to engage in those conversations with their kids from a place of faith and understanding.
It's about creating a safe space where kids can ask those tough questions and get honest answers.
And I appreciated that she even provided some additional resources within the article.
Oh, that's helpful.
To help parents navigate those sensitive conversations.
Because let's be real, a lot of parents feel ill-equipped.
They do.
To talk about those things.
So it's like she's giving them the tools that they need to address these complex issues with their kids.
With confidence and grace.
Yeah. And knowing that they can rely on the wisdom and guidance of their faith to navigate these sometimes uncharted waters.
And speaking of navigating uncharted waters, Connor's discussion of the apprenticeship in faith is really insightful. I mean, she goes beyond just the basics of teaching kids about Bible stories and prayers. And she gets into the practicalities of how to make faith a lived reality in their everyday lives.
Yeah, she talks about the power of, weaving faith into the rhythms of family life.
Yeah.
From daily routines like meal times and bedtime to celebrating holidays and marking special occasions in a way that points to Jesus.
It's about those little moments throughout the day.
It's about moving beyond just attending church on Sundays.
Exactly.
And making faith an integral part of who they are and how they experience the world.
It's about creating a home environment.
Right.
Where faith isn't just talked about, but lived out in tangible ways.
And that brings us to a really key element of this apprenticeship in faith, which is belonging to a church community.
Yeah, that's huge.
Connor really emphasizes the importance of that support system, especially when you're facing all the ups and downs of parenting.
Because you're going to face them.
You are. You're going to have those days where you're like,
oh, yeah,
what am I doing?
For sure.
You know, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, and that's when you need that community to rally around you.
Yeah, and I've heard so many parents say that finding a church where they feel connected and supported has been a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
For their families.
Yeah.
It's that sense of belonging.
Right.
Of having other people who understand your values and are walking a similar path.
It's like a safety net.
Yeah.
You know, a place where you can go when you're feeling overwhelmed or discouraged.
Exactly. And it really makes you think about your own support network as a parent. You know, how does your church, or perhaps the lack thereof, impact your parenting journey?
That's a great question for everyone listening to consider.
Yeah.
Where do you go for support? Who are the people you can turn to when you're struggling?
And I love how Connor acknowledges that, you know, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to this.
Of course not.
She talks about the unique challenges that are faced by single parents, families with non-Christian spouses, and those who are raising children with special needs.
It's about recognizing that every family has its own story, its own dynamics, and its own set of needs.
And it's about creating a church culture that welcomes and embraces those differences.
Yeah.
You know, providing a place of belonging for everyone, regardless of their circumstances.
It's about fostering that sense of unity amidst diversity, you know? A reminder that we're all part of the same family. United by our faith and our shared desire to raise our children in a way that honors God.
And, you know, one of the things that I really appreciate about Connor's writing is just her honesty about the realities of parenting.
Oh, yeah. It's not all sunshine and roses.
No. She doesn't sugarcoat the challenges.
Right.
But she also doesn't leave us feeling defeated.
No. She offers hope.
She does.
And encouragement.
Yeah, she reminds us that we don't have to have it all figured out.
We don't.
In fact, admitting our mistakes and asking for forgiveness is actually a really powerful way to model humility for our children.
It shows them that it's okay to not be perfect.
Yeah.
And that we all need forgiveness.
And it's like she's giving us permission to let go of that pressure, to be the perfect Christian parent, and to embrace the messy, beautiful reality of what it means to raise children in a way that reflects our faith.
Yeah, it's messy.
It is.
But it's also beautiful.
It is.
And it's real.
And that freedom is so important because it allows us to approach parenting from a place of grace.
Right.
Both for ourselves and for our children.
It's about recognizing that we're all on a journey, learning and growing together.
Right.
And that God's grace is sufficient for every step of the way.
And that's a message that I think we can all find comfort and encouragement in.
Absolutely.
And speaking of comfort and encouragement, Connor also touches on this idea of pointing our children to Jesus as the ultimate source of strength, forgiveness, and hope.
Yeah. And not just pointing our children to Jesus, but pointing ourselves to him as well, because ultimately we can only lead our children as far as we've gone ourselves in our own faith journey. You can't give what you don't have. So we need to be constantly growing and deepening our own relationship with Jesus.
And it's in that journey, you know, that constant pursuit of God's heart that we find the wisdom, the grace, and the strength to navigate the complexities of parenting.
In a way that reflects his love.
And that brings us to the next big idea in Connor's article, which is the power of community.
The power of community.
And in part 2 of our deep dive, we'll explore exactly how this spiritual family can make all the difference in our parenting journey.
I can't wait.
Yeah, we'll unpack Connor's insights on finding support, navigating challenges, and raising our children in a way that reflects the love and grace of our faith.
Sounds good. You know, as we were talking about that need for a supportive church community, it made me think about how Connor also addresses those times when our teenagers might start pulling away from the faith.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is. It's a tender spot for so many parents.
Yeah, you pour your heart and soul into raising your kids.
Right.
With this, strong faith foundation.
Right.
And then those teenage years hit.
Uh-oh.
And suddenly they're questioning everything.
It can be so disheartening.
It really can.
You feel like you've done everything right.
Right.
And then they just turn away.
Yeah. And Connor reminds us that ultimately, faith is a personal choice.
Yeah, it is.
And as much as we want our children to embrace the beliefs that we hold dear,
right,
we can't force it on them.
We can't.
And, that doesn't mean that we failed as parents.
Oh, no, not at all.
In fact, sometimes the best thing we can do is create a space where our kids feel safe to express their doubts. And to wrestle with those tough questions.
It's about keeping those lines of communication open.
Which can be so hard.
Oh, it can be so hard.
Especially when we feel like our kids are rejecting everything we've taught them.
Right. You feel like you're being rejected yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
But Connor encourages us to try to remember what it was like to be that age ourselves.
That's a good point.
I mean, a lot of us went through our own periods of questioning and searching.
Oh, for sure.
It's a natural part of growing up and forming your own identity.
And sometimes that process involves, pushing back against what we were taught, trying on different perspectives.
Right.
And figuring out, what we truly believe.
Exactly. And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe those years of questioning will actually lead to a deeper, more authentic faith down the road.
I love that. I remember a friend telling me about how her son went through this phase in high school where he wanted nothing to do with church.
Oh, wow.
And it broke her heart.
I can imagine.
But she respected his decision.
Good for her.
And you know what? A few years later, he came back to his faith.
Really?
With this renewed sense of purpose and commitment.
Oh, that's so encouraging.
It is. It's like those stories remind us that sometimes we need to let go and trust that God is working in our children's lives, even when we can't see it.
Even when it doesn't look like it.
Right. And that even when they make choices that we don't agree with, our love for them remains constant.
It's unconditional.
It is. Speaking of challenges, Connor doesn't shy away from the elephant in the room.
Which is?
Technology.
Oh, yeah.
That ever-present influence of technology in our kids' lives.
It's a whole new world for parents today.
It is. We're constantly trying to keep up with the latest apps, the social media trends.
Yeah, and all the online influences.
But the influences
that are shaping our kids' worldviews.
It can be so overwhelming.
It can.
Trying to figure out how to navigate it all from a place of faith.
Yeah, where do you even begin?
Right. But Connor reminds us that technology itself isn't the enemy.
Okay.
It's a tool that can be used for good or bad.
It all depends on how we use it.
Exactly. Like anything else, it comes down to how we use it.
Right.
And the boundaries that we set around it.
Yeah, she talks about the importance of having those open conversations with her kids.
Yeah.
About online safety and digital citizenship and the potential pitfalls of too much screen time.
Yeah. And she stresses the importance of us modeling healthy tech habits ourselves.
Oh, that's huge.
Our kids are watching us.
They are always watching.
They are. And they're far more likely to adopt healthy habits if they see us living them out.
It's that do as I do.
Right.
Not do as I say approach.
Exactly. And, this whole conversation about technology and the challenges of raising kids in the digital age brings us back to this idea of community.
Okay.
We need each other.
We do.
Parents, supporting parents.
Sharing wisdom.
Yeah, navigating these uncharted waters together.
Connor really drives home the point that we're not meant to do this parenting thing alone.
No, we're not.
She talks about the church as a vital source of support, a place where we can find encouragement, practical help, and a sense of belonging.
And I think it's important to remember that, the church isn't just for quote-unquote perfect families.
No, definitely not.
Connor specifically highlights the needs of single parents, blended families, and families with special needs children, recognizing that each of these groups faces its own unique joys and challenges.
Absolutely. It's about creating a church culture where everyone feels welcome, supported and valued, regardless of their family structure or their circumstances.
It's about fostering that sense of unity amidst diversity,
Yeah.
This reminder that we're all part of the same family.
Right.
United by our faith and our shared desire to raise our children in a way that honors God.
And it's not just about receiving support from others.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
also about offering support to those who might be struggling.
It's about reaching out, connecting with other parents, and being willing to share our own experiences.
Both the triumphs and the failures.
Exactly. Because, let's be honest, we've all had those moments where we feel like we're failing miserably as parents.
We have. We've all been there.
But sometimes just knowing that you're not alone, that other parents are going through similar struggles, can make all the difference.
It's that sense of shared humanity.
Yeah.
That reminder that we're all in this together.
And that's where the beauty of the church community comes in.
It really is.
It's a place where we can be honest about our struggles, where we can ask for help, and where we can receive grace and encouragement.
When we need it most.
Connor reminds us that as Christian parents, we have access to this incredible source of strength and guidance.
Which is?
The Holy Spirit.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's that still small voice that whispers wisdom in our hearts.
Right.
That prompts us to reach out to a friend in need.
Yeah.
That gives us the courage to apologize to our kids when we've messed up.
And that same Holy Spirit empowers us to live out our faith in a way that's authentic and compelling, inspiring our children to do the same.
It's a reminder that, you know, we're not just raising good kids. We're partnering with God in the formation of their hearts and souls.
And, you know, as we're talking about this idea of partnering with God, I keep coming back to Connor's central message.
Okay.
Which is that Christian parenting is about faithfulness. Not perfection.
Ooh, that's so good.
We're going to make mistakes.
We are.
We're going to have days where we feel like we're falling short.
Oh, for sure.
But we don't have to strive for some unattainable ideal of the perfect Christian parent.
Instead, we can focus on being faithful.
Exactly.
Faithful to God. Faithful to our calling as parents. And faithful to the unique children that He's entrusted to us.
It's about showing up every day. Doing our best. And relying on God's grace to fill in the gaps.
And it's about pointing our children to Jesus.
Yes.
Not as a set of rules to follow or a checklist to complete.
But as the source of true life, love, and forgiveness.
Because ultimately, that's what it's all about. Helping our children to discover that relationship with Jesus that will sustain them through every season of life.
And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'd like to challenge you to think about what it means to lift your eyes and your children's to the perfect Father who offers guidance and strength.
That's a beautiful image from Connor's article.
It is.
And it's a powerful reminder that we're not alone in this journey.
We're not.
We have a God who loves us unconditionally, who walks with us through every high and low, and who is always there to guide us and our children every step of the way.
So as you continue on your own parenting journey, remember to keep your eyes fixed on Him. Trust in His wisdom, rely on His grace, and let His love be the compass that guides you and your children toward a life of purpose and meaning. You know, as we wrap up our deep dive into what is Christian parenting, I keep coming back to Connor's beautiful closing image, this idea of lifting our eyes and our children's to the perfect Father.
It is a beautiful image.
It is.
And it's such a powerful reminder that amidst all the, you know, the complexities and the anxieties of parenting, there's this incredible source of strength and guidance available to us.
It's so easy to get bogged down in the day-to-day, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
We get caught up in the to-do lists, the schedules, the discipline battles.
All of it.
And we forget to look up, to remember that we're not doing this alone.
Yeah, and Connor reminds us that, you know, God isn't this distant figure who set the world in motion and then stepped back to watch the chaos unfold. He's a loving Father who's intimately involved in our lives and the lives of our children.
He wants to guide us.
He does.
To comfort us, to equip us for this incredible journey of parenthood.
And she talks about how we can practically invite God into our parenting. By making space for prayer, both individually and as a family. And you know, she suggests weaving those moments of connection with God into the fabric of our daily routines.
I love that idea. You know, it's not about adding another item to our already overflowing to-do list.
Exactly.
It's about finding those natural pauses throughout the day. Maybe it's during meal times or bedtime or even just driving in the car. And using those moments to connect with God, to thank him for our blessings, to ask for his guidance, to just be still and listen to his voice.
And I think it's so important to model that for our kids.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, they're watching us.
Always watching.
They're learning about faith.
Yeah.
Not just from what we say, but from what we do.
Actions speak louder than words.
Right. And if they see us, you know, making time for God, prioritizing our relationship with him, it sends a powerful message about what truly matters.
You know, one of the things that struck me about Connor's advice on prayer is that it's not just about asking God to fix our problems or make our kids behave.
Exactly.
It's about cultivating this posture of dependence, of acknowledging that we need God's wisdom and strength to be the parents our children need us to be.
It's like we're saying, okay, God, I can't do this on my own.
Right.
I need your help. I need your perspective.
Yeah.
I need your grace to cover my mistakes.
Exactly. And that humility. Yeah. That willingness to surrender control and rely on God. Yeah. It's so freeing.
It is. It takes the pressure off of us.
It does.
To have all the answers.
Yeah.
To be the perfect parents.
Instead, it invites us to partner with God. Yeah. To trust in his goodness and to allow him to work in and through us as we raise our children.
And, you know, I think that sense of surrender, of letting go of our need to control everything is especially important when we're dealing with those inevitable challenges that come with parenting.
Oh, absolutely. Whether it's navigating sibling rivalry, dealing with a rebellious teenager, or simply feeling overwhelmed by the demands of daily life. Connor encourages us to turn to God for strength, for wisdom, and for the peace that surpasses all understanding.
And she reminds us that we don't have to have all the answers.
We don't.
In fact, sometimes the best thing we can do is admit our own struggles, to be vulnerable with our kids, and let them see that we're not perfect, that we mess up sometimes.
We're human.
We are. But that we're always striving to grow and learn.
That kind of authenticity is so powerful.
It is.
Because it creates a space for connection, for empathy, and for grace. It allows our kids to see that it's okay to not have it all together. That everyone makes mistakes.
Right.
And that God's love is big enough to cover all of it.
And speaking of God's love, Connor reminds us that one of the most important things we can do as Christian parents is to point our children to Jesus.
It's not just about teaching them Bible stories or making them go to church. It's about sharing our own personal relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
About letting them see how our faith impacts our lives.
Right.
How it shapes our choices and how it gives us hope and joy, even in the midst of difficulties.
It's about helping them understand that a relationship with Jesus isn't just about following a set of rules or checking off a list of religious duties.
It's about experiencing that transformative love and grace of God, about finding freedom from guilt and shame, and about discovering a purpose that extends far beyond ourselves.
And as Connor so beautifully puts it, it's about lifting our children's eyes to the perfect Father who offers them guidance, strength, and unconditional love.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to encourage you to keep exploring what it means to be a Christian parent in today's world.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. To seek out wise counsel. And to connect with other parents who are walking a similar path.
Remember, you're not alone in this journey.
You have a God who loves you, who wants to guide you, and who is always there to help you navigate the joys and challenges of raising your children in a way that honors him.
And as you go, may you experience that peace and joy that comes from knowing that you are loved, you are forgiven, and you are empowered to be the parent your child needs you to be.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.